The envelope slid across the table like it had teeth. It made a soft sound on the polished wood, but in my chest it sounded loud, like a door slamming. "Sign it, Lacey," my husband said. His voice was calm, too calm, like he was reading a weather report, not ending my marriage. Behind him, Christmas lights blinked in the tall windows. Red, green, like the house was counting down to my shame. We were not at my place. We were at his parents' home in River Oaks, Houston. The kind of home with a gate that opens like a mouth and a driveway so clean it looks painted. A fountain whispered outside like it had secrets. My husband's name is Trent Aldridge. He is 38. Tall, smooth hair, clean beard, white teeth that show when he smiles for other people. He owns a logistics company called Gulfspan Freight, and he loves to talk about it like he is doing the city a favor. He also loves to talk about me like I am a mistake he is being patient with. My name is Lacey Wynn Aldridge. I'm 32, 5'4", curly dark hair I usually tie back because life moves fast. I don't wear fancy things. I don't like loud rooms. People think I am quiet because I am weak. That is what Trent wanted them to think. I work in downtown Houston as a records and compliance specialist for a large insurance group. It sounds boring, but it means I know something most people do not know. I know how lies leave footprints. I know how money moves when someone is trying to hide it. I know what people do when they think nobody is watching. That night, Trent leaned back in his chair like a king who already won. "You're not prepared," he said. "You were never prepared. That's why this is happening." His mother, Celeste Aldridge, sat at the table with perfect posture, perfect hair, and a smile that never reached her eyes. She was 59 and dressed like Christmas was a photo shoot. His father, Wade Aldridge, sat at the head of the table like a statue, 62. Big hands, quiet voice, a heavy ring on his finger. The kind of man who thinks silence is power. They had set the table for 4. Crystal glasses, gold napkins, plates that looked too expensive to touch. A giant Christmas tree glowed in the corner, covered in gold ornaments and ribbons. Gifts were stacked under it like bricks. Celeste tapped the envelope with one fingernail. "This is the clean way," she said. "No drama, no court, no gossip. You sign, you leave, Trent moves on." "It's Christmas Eve, Lacey. Don't ruin Christmas." I stared at the envelope. Inside were papers, a separation agreement. And it was not just about ending things. It was about taking things. It was about making sure I walked out with nothing and smiled while doing it. Trent pushed a pen toward me. "Go ahead," he said. "Be smart for once." My throat tightened, but I did not cry, because I had already cried enough when nobody could hear me. And because I had been preparing for this night for 6 months. Trent did not know that. He thought I was not prepared. He thought wrong, but to understand why this night mattered, you need to know how I ended up sitting at that table, holding a pen like a weapon, while my husband tried to erase me on Christmas Eve. So let me start over. How I met Trent and how I missed the first warning. I met Trent in Houston 2.5 years ago. It was at a charity event near Buffalo Bayou. My friend Mina Reyes dragged me there because she said I needed sunlight and new people. Mina is my best friend. She is 33, loud in the best way, and she works as a nurse in a trauma unit. She sees real emergencies every day, so she does not get scared easily. That day, she pointed at Trent across the crowd and whispered, "That man looks like trouble." Trent was wearing a fitted suit, even though it was warm outside. He was laughing with a group of men near a banner that said Houston Gives Back. He looked confident, like he had never doubted himself for 1 second. Mina rolled her eyes. "He probably calls himself an entrepreneur." I shrugged. "Let's just get the free snacks." But Trent noticed me. He walked over like he had already decided I would like him. "Hi," he said, smiling wide. "I'm Trent." I told him my name. He said, "Lacey, that's a strong name." That was the first warning, because Trent said things like that a lot. Things that sounded like compliments, but felt like he was measuring me. We talked for a while. He asked where I worked. I told him I worked in records and compliance. He laughed softly and said, "So you're organized. That's good. Most people are a mess." Then he leaned in and said, like it was a secret, "I like women who are prepared." Prepared. That word meant something to him. At the time, I thought it meant he respected me. Now I know it meant something else. It meant prepared to obey. Trent talked about his company, Gulfspan Freight. He said they moved goods across Texas and beyond. He said he worked crazy hours, but it was worth it because he was building something real. He asked me about my family. I told him my mom lives in Louisiana. My dad passed away when I was young. I didn't have much family in Houston, just Mina. Trent's eyes softened in a way that looked kind. "I'll be your family," he said. That was the second warning. It felt romantic. It was also a promise that came with a trap, because when someone says, "I'll be your family," it can also mean, "I'll be all you have." Trent asked me out that same night. Mina leaned close and whispered, "Be careful." I laughed. "It's just dinner." Mina said, "Trouble always starts with dinner." I wish I listened. The fast love and how he made it feel like my choice. Trent was charming at first. He sent good morning texts. He brought flowers. He remembered little things, like how I like my coffee and how I hate loud restaurants. He told me I was different, and I felt seen. He also talked about his parents a lot. "My mom is classy," he said. "My dad is old school. They want the best for me." At the time, I thought that sounded normal. I didn't know the best meant someone who looks good next to their name. The first time I met Celeste and Wade, Celeste looked me up and down like I was a dress on a rack. "So you work in compliance?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Celeste smiled, but it wasn't warm. "How practical." Wade shook my hand and said, "Trent tells us you're quiet." I didn't know what to say, so I smiled politely. Trent squeezed my hand like a signal. "Don't talk too much." At dinner, Celeste talked about River Oaks society like it was a school and everyone else was failing. She talked about people's houses and cars and vacations like those were the only things that mattered. Then she asked Trent, "Do you still talk to Madison?" Trent laughed. "Mom, no." Celeste sighed. Madison was so polished. Trent looked at me and said, "Lacey's real. I should have felt protected." Instead, I felt like I was being compared to a product. That night, when we got back to my place, Trent said, "See, you did fine." I blinked. "Did fine?" He smiled. "My parents can be a lot, but you were prepared. You kept calm." Prepared again. Always prepared. Like a test. Like I was constantly being graded. Still, I stayed. Because I loved him. And because when you don't have a big family in the city, it is easy to hold on too tight to the person who says, "I'll be your family." The marriage and the quiet change. We got married after 1 year. It was small. A winter wedding. Houston was cold that day, the kind of cold that makes your nose sting. Mina stood beside me and cried the whole time. Trent's parents sat in the front row like they were watching a business deal. After the wedding, Celeste kissed my cheek and said, "Welcome to the family, Lacey. Don't make it hard for Trent." I laughed awkwardly, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Trent and I moved into a modest 2-bedroom condo unit near the museum district. Not River Oaks, not a mansion, just a clean place with a small balcony. I loved it. It felt like ours. Trent called it temporary. He said, "Once the company really pops, we'll upgrade." At first, that sounded exciting. Later, it sounded like a threat, because upgrade was not about comfort. It was about status. And I was not his status. I was his secret embarrassment. The change happened slowly, like a room getting colder 1 degree at a time. Trent stopped asking my opinion about money. He handled the bills. He handled the accounts. He said, "It's easier this way." Then one night, I asked to see our bank app, just to understand our budget. Trent laughed and said, "You don't understand money, Lace." That was the first time he said it out loud. You don't understand. Not prepared. Not built for it. Those were his favorite knives. I told myself it was stress. I told myself he was tired. But then I started noticing things. Trent would come home late and say, "Work." Trent would step outside to take calls and turn his body away from me. Trent would guard his phone like it was a living thing, and his parents got worse. Celeste started inviting us to dinners where I was treated like a guest who overstayed. Wade started telling Trent stories about real men who handle their wives. Once, Celeste handed me a plate and said, "The kitchen is over there, sweetheart." I blinked. "Do you want help?" Celeste smiled. "It's what wives do." Trent didn't say anything. He just watched. That was the moment something in me shifted, because I realized Trent was not unaware. He was enjoying it. The first big humiliation. And Mina's warning. Last spring, Trent hosted a company dinner at a restaurant near the Galleria. He told me to wear something simple. I wore a navy dress and flats. I felt nice. When we arrived, I saw Bryn Sloan for the first time. She was standing close to Trent, laughing like her whole job was to make him feel important. Long blonde hair, bright smile, too much perfume. Trent didn't introduce us right away. He talked to his team first. Bryn glanced at me and smiled like she already knew something. Finally, Trent turned and said, "Oh, Bryn, this is my wife, Lacey." Bryn's smile widened. "Wife? Wow, you look comfortable." Comfortable, not pretty, not elegant. comfortable. Trent laughed like it was funny. He said, "Lacey doesn't care about all this stuff." I said quietly, "I care about being respected." Trent's eyes flicked to mine, warning. Not now. At dinner, one of Trent's business friends raised a glass and said, "To Trent, the man who moves Houston." Everyone laughed. Then the man looked at me and said, "And to Lacey, for supporting him. Must be hard keeping up with a guy like Trent." Before I could answer, Trent said, "She's not really involved. She has her little office job." Little, the word landed like a slap. Bryn laughed too. I sat there, holding my fork, feeling my face burn. Mina would have stood up and thrown her drink, but Mina wasn't there. And I didn't want to be emotional because Trent loved that word. After dinner, in the car, I said, "Why did you call my job little?" Trent sighed like I was annoying. "Because it is little compared to mine." I stared at him. "That's not true." He smirked. "Lacey, you're not prepared to compete with me. Don't try." End quote. Prepared again. Always. He used it like a leash. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and listened to his breathing. And I thought, if this is what marriage is, I need a plan. Not a fight. A plan. The moment I stopped guessing and started collecting, 1 month later, I found a hotel key card in Trent's jacket. It was tucked behind a receipt, like he forgot it was there. The card said, "The Carlton Heights Hotel." I stared at it so long my eyes hurt. When Trent walked into the bedroom, I held it up. "What is this?" I asked. He glanced at it and didn't even blink. "Work," he said. "At a hotel." My voice shook. He sighed. "Client meetings. You wouldn't understand." I stepped closer. "Why didn't you tell me?" Trent's face hardened. "Because you're not built for this kind of life, Lacey. You get emotional. You panic. You're not prepared for what I deal with." There it was. The excuse. The insult. The control. He took the key card from my hand and slipped it into his pocket like it belonged to him. "Drop it," he said. Then he kissed my forehead like I was a child. "I love you," he said. Like that fixed everything. After he left the room, I sat on the bed and shook. Then I wiped my face and did the one thing Trent never expected. I started collecting. Because in my job, when people lie, we don't argue. We document. That night, I made a folder on my personal laptop. I named it something boring. Warranty manuals. Inside it, I made subfolders. Dates, bank, texts, photos, timeline. I felt sick doing it. I didn't want to live like this, but I also refused to live blind. Over the next weeks, I watched. Not like a jealous wife, like a records person. When Trent came home late, I wrote down the time. When he took calls outside, I noted the date. When I saw Bryn's name pop up on his screen, I snapped a photo from a distance. Not dramatic, just careful. Then the biggest mistake Trent made happened in early November. He forgot to log out of our shared home computer, the one we used for streaming. His email was open, right there on the screen, and I saw a message that said, "Condo lease attached Midtown unit approved." I clicked nothing. I didn't forward it. I took a photo. Then I closed the laptop and sat on the couch with my heart pounding. Midtown, a condo, approved. I knew what that meant, and I knew who it was for. Who Bryn really was. Bryn Sloan wasn't just some coworker. She was a strategy. She was young, pretty, loud, social. She made Trent feel like a big man. And Trent liked women who looked like trophies. I didn't hate Bryn. Not at first. Because I knew Trent was the one who made promises. But when I started collecting, I learned something that made my stomach twist. Bryn wasn't just dating Trent. She was helping him move money. She was part of the plan. How did I know? Because of a receipt I found in Trent's car. A bank receipt. It showed a cashier's check request for a condo deposit. And the account number matched our joint account. Our money. Our life. Our trust. Used to build a secret home for the woman who smiled at me like she owned my seat at the table. That night, I didn't confront Trent. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of him. I opened my laptop and updated the timeline. Because I wasn't guessing anymore. I was building a case. If you're enjoying this story so far and you understand what's happening, comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe. Because on *** Christmas Eve, Trent tries to trap me with papers and the court order shows up like a storm. If you enjoyed this story and you want more real, intense revenge stories like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Your support helps me keep making bigger, better, and more interesting content for you. And don't watch alone. Invite a friend, share the video, and tell others to join you in supporting this channel so we can grow together. Now, I want to hear from you too. Write in the comments where you're watching from, your country or your city. I read your comments, and your support truly matters. All right, now let's go back to listening to the beautiful revenge story of our protagonist. The Christmas setup, and why he chose Christmas Eve. December in Houston is strange. One day it's cold. The next day it feels like spring, but inside my marriage, it was always winter. Trent started acting nicer in early December. He bought peppermint coffee. He asked if I wanted to watch holiday movies. He even held my hand in public. If you don't know Trent, it would look sweet. But I knew him now. When Trent is nice, he is planning. Mina noticed too. We met for lunch near my office downtown. She slid into the booth and said, "You look tired." I tried to smile. "It's the holidays." Mina's eyes narrowed. "It's him." I didn't answer. Mina reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Talk to me." So I told her, not all of it, but enough. I told her about the key card, about Bryn, about the condo. Mina's face turned hard. I knew it. I whispered, "I'm not crazy, right?" Mina almost looked angry that I asked. "No, you are not crazy. You are being lied to." Then she said something that stuck in my head. People like Trent don't leave unless they get what they want. If he's acting nice, it means he is about to take something. She was right. 3 days later, on a Tuesday morning, Trent came into the kitchen while I was making toast. He wrapped his arms around my waist like we were normal. "Mom wants us for dinner on Christmas Eve," he said. I froze. "Christmas Eve?" I repeated. "Yeah," he said. "Just us. Mom and Dad want to keep it simple. Family time." Family time. I stared at the toaster like it might help me think. Trent kissed my cheek. "Wear something nice," he said. "Don't be awkward." Then he added, like a joke, "And be prepared." My mouth went dry, because I knew. Christmas Eve dinner was not about love. It was about control. That night, when Trent was asleep, I called someone I had been afraid to call. A lawyer. Her name is Imani Kerr. I found her through a coworker who once said, "If you ever need someone who won't blink, call Imani." Imani answered in a firm voice. "Imani Kerr," she said. My voice shook. "Hi, my name is Lacey Aldridge. I think my husband is hiding money and having an affair. I don't know what to do." Imani didn't ask if I was sure. She asked, "Are you safe?" I blinked. "Yes." "Good," she said. "Then we focus on facts. Do you have documents?" I swallowed. "I have screenshots and a timeline." Imani paused, then said, "That's more than most people have. You're already ahead." Ahead, not prepared. Ahead. It was the first time in months I felt like someone saw me as capable. Imani told me what to do next. "Do not confront him," she said. "Do not warn him. If he knows you're collecting, he will delete things." I whispered, "He already guards his phone." Imani said, "Then we move fast. I'm going to request an emergency evidence preservation order. It's a court order that tells him he must not delete or destroy records." My stomach flipped. "Can we do that?" "Yes," she said. "If we show the court a reason. Transfers, hidden accounts, cheating tied to money, threats, anything like that." I thought of the condo deposit, the hotel key card, the bank receipt. "Yes," I said. "Yes." Imani's voice stayed steady. "Good. Send me everything tonight. Do it from a device he can't access." "And Lacey?" "Yes." "Don't doubt yourself," she said. "He trained you to doubt. That's how control works." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, I wasn't just scared. I was ready. The trigger. The bank email that wasn't meant for me. 2 days before Christmas Eve, something happened that made everything urgent. I got an email by mistake. It was from a bank. It had Gulfspan's name. It looked official. The subject line said, "Notice of audit flag unusual transfers." My heart jumped. It was addressed to Trent's business email, but the bank also had my personal email on file from an old joint application. Trent probably didn't realize that. He probably didn't even read the fine print. I opened the email and read it 3 times. It warned about unusual transfers and possible review. That meant Trent's money games were no longer just between him and me. Now a bank was watching. And when banks watch, people panic. That afternoon, while Trent was acting sweet and humming a Christmas song in the kitchen, he moved money. I saw it later on our joint account history. A transfer of $93,400. From our joint account to a business account I had never seen. It wasn't normal. It wasn't rent. It wasn't a bill. It was a grab. A hiding move. I sat on the couch with my laptop and felt the pieces snap together. Trent knew the bank was watching. He knew an audit could expose him, so he needed me to sign papers that would stop me from asking questions later. And he picked Christmas Eve because 1. People are distracted. 2. Courts are harder to reach. 3. Families pressure you to keep peace. 4. It's easier to make you feel guilty. Trent wasn't just leaving me. He was trying to lock the door behind him. I forwarded the bank email to Imani. Then I sent a simple message. He moved $93,400 today. I have screenshots. Imani replied fast. Do not tell him. We file tonight. I stared at the message and felt my hands go cold. Christmas was supposed to be warm. Not like this. Christmas Eve, the drive into the trap. On Christmas Eve, Houston was glowing. Lights wrapped around palm trees. Cars lined up at drive-through coffee shops. People wore Santa hats, even though the air wasn't that cold. Trent drove us to River Oaks in his black SUV. He wore a nice sweater and a watch that cost more than my monthly groceries. I wore a simple green dress and boots. I kept my hair down to look presentable. Trent glanced at me. Try to smile tonight, he said. I stared out the window. I always smile. He smirked. Not the right way. Traffic moved slow near the river. Mansions rose behind gates like they were hiding from the rest of the city. When we turned into his parents' street, I felt my stomach tighten. Trent parked in the long driveway. As we walked up to the front door, he leaned close and whispered, "Be prepared." Then he rang the bell. Celeste opened the door herself, which was unusual. Normally, someone else would. She hugged Trent first. Then she hugged me like I was a coat she didn't want to touch. "Merry Christmas, Lacey," she said. "Hi, Celeste," I replied. Wade appeared behind her and nodded once. We stepped inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and something sharp like polished wood. A huge Christmas tree stood in the corner, glowing gold. Celeste's eyes flicked to my shoes. "You chose boots," she said. I smiled. "Yes, they're comfortable." Celeste's mouth tightened. Of course. Trent took his sweater off and handed it to a helper like he owned the air. Then he looked at me. "Try not to say anything weird," he murmured. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded, because sometimes nodding is how you survive long enough to win. Dinner begins, and the microcuts start. The dining table looked like a magazine, 4 place settings, each one perfect. Celeste had lit candles that smelled like pine. Wade sat at the head, as always. Trent sat on his right. Celeste sat on his left, and I sat across from Trent, not beside him, across, like an opponent. Celeste poured wine for Trent and Wade. Then she looked at me. "Do you drink?" she asked. "I do," I said. She poured me a small amount, like I was a teenager. Trent watched and didn't correct her. Then Celeste smiled and said, "Trent says you've been stressed." Trent cut his turkey calmly. "She gets stressed easily." I looked at him. "I work full-time. I run our home. That's not stress. That's life." Wade finally spoke. "A good wife doesn't make life harder," he said. The words landed heavy. Celeste dabbed her lips and said, "It's okay, Wade." Lacey tries. Tries. Like I'm a child trying to tie my shoes. Trent smiled slightly. I realized then that the dinner was not just a meeting. It was a performance. And I was the target. They talked about River Oaks events. They talked about people's investments. They talked about how the city is changing. Then Celeste said, "Trent, did you hear that Madison is engaged?" Trent's eyes didn't move. Good for her. Celeste glanced at me. Madison was always very polished. She understood how to support a man with ambition. Trent took a sip of wine. I smiled politely. But inside, I was counting. Counting every insult. Counting every little cut. Because cuts add up. And later, when someone asks why you finally walked away, you can point to the pile and say, that's why. The envelope appears. After the main course, Celeste stood and said, "Dessert soon. But first, a small family matter." End quote. She walked to a side table and picked up a thick envelope. The same envelope I saw at the start of this story. She placed it on the table in front of Trent. Trent didn't look surprised. So he knew. This wasn't a sudden idea. This was planned. Celeste slid the envelope across the table toward me. And there it was. The sound that changed everything. Soft paper against wood. A quiet threat. Trent folded his hands. "We're doing this tonight," he said. "No more delays." My mouth went dry. "Doing what?" Celeste smiled like she was helping. "We're helping you both make a smart decision." Wade said, "This marriage has been difficult." Trent nodded. "Because you weren't prepared to be a wife. Prepared again." Trent reached into the envelope and pulled out papers. Separation agreement printed in bold at the top. A pen sat beside it, ready. Celeste said, "We included a small payment so you can start over." Trent lifted a page and tapped it. 10,000. That's generous. 10,000. For my life, for my time, for my dignity. For every time I cooked and cleaned and waited and worried. Trent's eyes locked on mine. "Sign it. Don't make this ugly." I flipped through the pages slowly. The agreement said, I would take my clothes and personal items. I would keep my used Corolla. I would accept $10,000 transition support. I would give up any claim to Gulfspan Freight. I would give up any claim to our condo unit and any savings. I would not request future records or discovery. That last part was the trap. No discovery, no questions, no proof. They wanted me blind forever. Celeste watched my face like she was waiting for tears. Wade watched my hands like he was waiting for shaking. Trent watched my eyes like he was waiting for surrender. But my hands were steady. Because in my purse, right beside my phone, was a thin folder he did not know existed. It had screenshots, dates, receipts, the bank email, and proof of the $93,400 transfer. Trent leaned forward. "So," he said softly, "what do you say?" I breathed in. I played my part. I let my eyes soften. I let my voice go quiet. "I need time," I said. Celeste sighed like I disappointed her. "Time for what?" "To read," I said. "To understand." Trent laughed once. "Lacey, you're not prepared to understand." Wade's voice was cold. "Sign and leave. Don't drag our son into court drama," Celeste added. "It's Christmas Eve. Be decent." Trent's smile widened. "Exactly. Be decent. Be smart. Take the 10,000 and go." I stared at the page again, then looked up at Trent. "Can I ask one question?" I said. Trent nodded like a king granting a wish. "One." "If I sign," I said, "you promise you won't tell people I begged you to stay. You promise you won't call me unstable." Celeste's lips pressed tight. Wade stared at his plate. Trent's eyes lit up, because this was what he wanted. He wanted me scared. He wanted me small. He stood up and walked behind my chair. His voice dropped near my ear. "You want the truth," he whispered. "You'll sign because you don't have anything. You're not prepared for court. You're not prepared for lawyers. You're not prepared for what I can do." My skin went cold. Then he said the sentence that made my blood go calm. "You don't have proof of anything. It's the fire." He didn't know what he just did. He didn't know. He just told me the exact fear he had. Proof. He was scared of proof. I turned my head slightly and looked up at him. I said softly, "You're right." Trent smiled. Celeste smiled too. They thought I broke. They thought I surrendered. That's when I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. "I want to call my sister," I said. "It's Christmas Eve. I want to tell her I'm okay." Trent waved a hand. "Make it quick." I dialed. Not my sister. My attorney. Imani Kerr. She answered on the first ring. "Lacey." I put the phone on speaker and set it on the table right next to the agreement. Trent blinked. "Who is that?" Imani's voice was clear and calm. "You're at the River Oaks house, correct?" "Yes," I said. "They're trying to make me sign." Celeste's voice snapped. "Excuse me." Imani spoke over her like Celeste was wind. "Do not sign." The judge signed the order at 3:12 p.m. Trent froze. Wade's head lifted. Celeste went stiff, like someone pressed pause. Trent said, "What order?" I kept my voice gentle. "The evidence preservation order." Trent laughed too loud. "That's not real." Imani's tone did not change. "It's real. It requires Mr. Aldridge to preserve all texts, emails, bank records, GPS history, and app messages for the last 12 months. It also orders an independent tech examiner to image his phone and laptop." Celeste's voice went thin. "This is ridiculous." Imani replied, "If anyone destroys evidence after service, the court can issue sanctions. That means punishment." Trent's face changed. Not anger, panic. "You can't do this on Christmas Eve," he snapped, like the calendar could protect him. Imani said, "Fraud doesn't take vacations." My heart beat hard, but my face stayed calm. Trent stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You did this?" he whispered. I met his eyes. I prepared. He shook his head fast. "No, you're not." The doorbell rang. Once, then again, then 3 hard knocks. Wade stood up slowly. "Who is that?" Imani's voice came through my phone like a final bell. "That will be the constable serving the order. Do not touch your devices, Mr. Aldridge. Do not delete anything. Do not call anyone to fix anything. It will make it worse." Trent's eyes darted to the hallway, then to his pocket, where his phone sat like a loaded weapon, then back to me. Celeste whispered, "Lacey, don't do this." Trent's voice rose. "Tell them to go away." But the knocks came again, harder. I stood up, pushed my chair back, and walked toward the door. My legs felt light, not because I wasn't scared, but because I wasn't trapped anymore. I opened the door. A man in a dark jacket held out a sealed packet. "Trent Aldridge?" he asked. Trent stepped into view, trying to stand tall, trying to act like this was nothing, but his eyes were wide. The man said, "You've been served." And in the warm glow of Christmas lights, I watched my husband's confidence crack on Christmas Eve, under his mother's perfect tree. The constable's footsteps faded down the hallway. Then the front door shut, and the River Oaks house, with all its gold lights and perfect ornaments, suddenly felt like a stage after the show ends. Quiet, too quiet. Trent still held the packet in his hand, like it was burning him. His mouth opened once, like he wanted to yell, but no sound came out. Celeste stood frozen near the table, her face pale under her makeup. Her eyes kept flicking to Trent's pocket. His phone. Wade looked like someone punched him in the gut. He stared at Trent, not at me, like he was trying to figure out who his son really was. I stayed standing near the door, my phone still on speaker, Imani still on the line. Imani's voice was calm. "Lacey, are you safe?" "Yes," I said. "Good," she replied. "Now listen. If Trent tries to take your phone, don't fight him. Step away and call 911. The order is served. That matters." Trent finally spoke. His voice sounded thin and sharp at the same time. "Turn that off." I didn't move. "No." Celeste stepped forward with that same fake sweetness she used when she wanted people to obey. "Lacey, sweetheart, this is too much. Let's talk like family." I looked at her. "We were never talking like family," I said. "You slid papers at me like I was a problem you could pay to remove." Wade's eyes flashed. "Lacey, enough." I turned toward him. "You told me to sign and leave. On Christmas Eve. Like I was nothing." Trent's face twisted. "Oh, now you're brave." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I walked back to the table, picked up the separation agreement, and held it up. "This," I said, "is what you planned." Then I placed it down and tapped the part that mattered most. "This part says I give up the right to ask for records later. Why would I give that up if you did nothing wrong?" Trent's jaw clenched. Celeste's hands trembled slightly. She tried to hide it by smoothing her blouse. Wade spoke slowly. "Trent, what is she talking about?" Trent snapped. "She's twisting everything." Imani's voice cut in. "Mr. Aldridge, you were served with an evidence preservation order. You're required to keep all records. Any attempt to delete anything now will be reported." Trent glared at the phone like it was a snake. Then his own phone buzzed in his pocket. He flinched hard. It buzzed again and again. Celeste whispered, "Trent, don't answer." Trent hissed. "It might be the office." Imani said, "Do not touch it." Trent's chest rose and fell fast. His eyes darted around like he wanted to escape his own skin. Wade stepped closer to him. "Give me the phone," Wade demanded. Trent pulled back. "No." Wade's voice got louder. "Give me the phone." Celeste grabbed Wade's arm. "Wade, stop." Wade shook her off. "Our son is going to ruin himself." Trent's face went red. "He's fine." Then he pointed at me. "She's the one doing this. She's making it a scene on Christmas Eve. In your house." I stared at him. "You made it a scene when you tried to trap me," I said. "I just stopped it." Trent laughed, but it wasn't real. "You think you're prepared now? You think you're some genius because you called a lawyer?" I leaned forward, voice low and steady. "I didn't call a lawyer tonight," I said. "I called her weeks ago." Celeste's eyes widened. Wade's mouth tightened. Trent froze. "Weeks?" I nodded once. "While you were calling me emotional, I was building a timeline. While you were saying I didn't understand money, I was reading bank records. While you were smiling at me and coming home late, I was saving proof." In yesterday, Trent's lips parted. For a second, he looked scared in a way I had never seen. Then anger rushed back in to cover it. "You were spying on me." I shrugged. "You were lying to me." Celeste finally found her voice again, high and shaky. "Lacey, stop. This is private. You're making it public." Imani's voice stayed calm. "Ma'am, it became public when your son tried to hide funds and force a waiver. That's why the court acted." Trent suddenly lunged toward me, not to hit me, but to grab my phone off the table. Mina always said people show you who they are when control slips. Trent's hand reached. I stepped back fast, like I had practiced. I snatched my phone and held it close to my chest. "Don't," I warned. Trent stopped, breathing hard. eyes wild. Wade moved between us without thinking. "Trent," he barked. "Sit down." Trent looked at his father like he didn't recognize him. Celeste looked at me like I had just stabbed her. "You're doing this to punish us," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm doing this to protect myself." Imani said, "Lacey, you should leave. Now, don't argue. We have what we need." I nodded. Trent snapped. "You're leaving? After this?" I picked up my purse slowly. "Yes." Celeste stepped forward. "Where will you go?" I looked at her. "Home," I said. "My home." Trent laughed again. "That condo is mine." I stared at him. "We'll let the court decide that," I said, as I walked toward the door. Trent's voice followed me like poison. "You have no idea what you started." I turned back one last time. I looked him in the eye and said, "I started the truth." Then I walked out into the warm Houston night. Christmas night drive. The quiet after the storm. I didn't take Trent's SUV. I took my Corolla. It was parked behind his parents' fancy cars, like it didn't belong. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door, and sat with my hands on the wheel. My whole body shook, not because I regretted it, because I was finally letting myself feel what I had been holding in for months. I called Mina. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're not alone." "I'm in my car," I whispered. "I'm leaving River Oaks." "Good," Mina said. "Drive to my place." I swallowed. "I can go to my condo." Mina snorted. "Not tonight, not on the same night you served him a court order. Come to my place. I have cameras, I have a loud neighbor, and I have a frying pan." I almost laughed. It came out as a broken sound. "I'm on my way," I said. I drove through Houston with Christmas lights flashing past me. Cars moved slow, families carried gifts, people looked happy. I felt like I was floating outside my own life. When I got to Mina's apartment, she opened the door before I knocked. She pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. Then she held my face and said, "Are you hurt?" "No," I said. "Are you scared?" "Yes," I admitted. Mina nodded. "Good. Fear means you understand what's happening." I blinked. "That doesn't sound comforting." "It is," Mina said, "because before you were numb. Now you're awake." She made me sit on her couch. She handed me water. She didn't ask me to smile. She didn't ask me to calm down. She just stayed. At 11:46 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Trent. "You think you won. You didn't." Mina saw it, and her face darkened. "Block him." "I can't," I whispered. Imani said, "Keep messages." "Evidence." Mina nodded. "Screenshot it. Save it, then mute." So I did. I saved it inside the folder labeled Warranty Manuals, and for the first time, my secret folder didn't feel like a sad thing. It felt like armor. Christmas Day morning. The order has teeth. On Christmas morning, I woke up on Mina's couch with a stiff neck and a heavy head. Mina had left a blanket on me and a note. "Coffee is on. You're not alone." I stared at the note and almost cried, but I didn't. I just held it for a second and breathed. At 9:03 a.m., Imani called. "Good morning," she said, like we were discussing normal business. I sat up. "Merry Christmas," I whispered. Imani's voice softened slightly. "Merry Christmas. Here's the schedule. The examiner will contact Trent today. If he refuses, we tell the court. If he complies, we move forward." I swallowed. "What if he deletes things?" Imani said, "If he deletes now, it's worse for him. The order is served. The court can punish him." My stomach turned. "He tried to grab my phone last night." Imani's tone sharpened. "Did he touch you?" "No," I said. "Good," she replied. "Stay with Mina today. Don't go back to the condo alone." I glanced at the Christmas lights Mina had on her window. "Okay." Imani continued. "Also, Lacey, do not post anything online. Do not warn anyone. Let the process work." I nodded. "I won't." Then she said the next thing like a hammer. "And Trent already tried to move money again." My blood went cold. "How?" Imani explained. Simple and clear. At 7:18 a.m., he tried to reverse the $93,400 transfer and reroute funds to a new account. The bank refused because of internal flags. They logged the attempt. My mouth opened. I felt sick. Even after being served, he still tried. Imani said, "That helps us." "It feels awful," I whispered. "It is awful," she agreed. "But the court cares about patterns. He's showing his." I stared at Mina's small Christmas tree in the corner. It had one ornament shaped like a taco. Mina's humor. I thought about Trent's mother's perfect tree. Gold ribbons, gold balls, gold lies. Then I heard Mina in the kitchen. She was humming. She was making eggs like it was just another day. And I realized something. Trent's power didn't come from money. It came from the fact that I used to believe I couldn't survive without him. That belief was gone. The examiner calls, and Trent panics. At 12:22 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Not Trent. An unknown number. I answered. Hello? Mrs. Aldridge? A man asked. Yes. My name is Darren Pike, he said. I'm the independent tech examiner assigned to the court order. His voice was polite and serious. He explained in simple words, I will make copies of devices and accounts, not to judge feelings, just to preserve information. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Okay. Darren said, Mr. Aldridge has been contacted. He is resistant. I almost smiled without humor. That sounds like him. Darren continued, I'm required to offer him a time window today and tomorrow. If he refuses, I document it. I swallowed. Do you need my device too? Yes, Darren said, for timeline comparison and to confirm authenticity of messages and screenshots. I looked at Mina. She was listening quietly. Yes, I said. I'll cooperate. Darren gave me an address near downtown for a secure office location. You can come in tomorrow morning, he said. December 26th. I remembered the constable's words. Tomorrow morning. Now it was real. When I hung up, Mina said, He's resisting because he's hiding. I nodded. Then my phone buzzed with a new message from Trent. Come home. We need to talk. I stared at it. Mina shook her head hard. No. I typed nothing back. Then another message came. If you don't come home, you'll regret it. My chest tightened. That one felt like a threat. I screenshot it, saved it, muted him. Mina watched my hands and said, Look at you. What? I whispered. You're doing it, she said. You're not begging. You're not chasing. You're building your case. I exhaled slowly. Yes, that's exactly what I was doing. The call from Celeste. The switch. At 4:40 p.m., Celeste called me. I stared at the screen. Mina said, Let it go. But something in me needed to hear what she would say when her control didn't work. So I answered, Hello? Celeste's voice was smaller than usual. Lacey, please. I leaned back against the couch. What do you want, Celeste? She swallowed, and I could hear it. Trent is upset. This is becoming serious. I almost laughed. It was serious when he tried to force me to sign papers on Christmas Eve. Celeste rushed in fast. We didn't want to hurt you. We wanted to keep things calm. Calm for who? I asked. She paused. Then she said the honest part without meaning to. Calm for Trent. There it was. I said, Your son didn't want calm. He wanted control. Celeste's voice trembled. He says you're not prepared. He says you don't understand what you're doing. I stared at the ceiling and spoke slowly. If I'm not prepared, why is he the one panicking? Celeste went quiet. Then she whispered, What do you want? I answered the truth. I want honesty, and I want fairness. Celeste's voice grew sharp again. Fairness? After all Trent has done for you? I sat up. Trent didn't do anything for me, I said. He used me. He used our money. He used my silence, Celeste snapped. You're making him look bad, I breathed in. He made himself look bad. Celeste's voice broke. You're going to ruin his company, I said softly. He already started that when he tried to hide money. Then I hung up. My hands shook after, but Mina nodded like she was proud. You did good, she said. I whispered, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Mina shrugged. That's normal. Power doesn't feel cute when you pick it up for the first time. December 26th. The imaging. The next morning, Mina drove me downtown. Houston looked normal again. People went to work. Traffic filled the roads. Holiday music played in stores like nothing had changed. But my life had changed. Darren Pike's office was in a plain building near downtown, not far from the courthouse. No signs. Just a quiet place that smelled like clean air and printer ink. Darren was mid-40s with tired eyes and calm hands. He explained everything in simple steps. I will connect your phone to a tool, he said. It makes a copy. It does not change your phone. It's like taking a photo of the inside. I nodded. Okay. He asked, Do you have the screenshots on your device? Yes, I said. He looked at me and said, You did well saving them. Most people delete messages out of panic. I swallowed. I didn't want to panic. Darren nodded. Good. He took my phone carefully like it was evidence in a crime show. Mina sat behind me, silent but present. While Darren worked, my phone buzzed on the table again and again. Trent's name on the screen. I watched it like it was a snake trying to crawl back into my life. Darren didn't look up. Mr. Aldridge has not provided his devices yet, he said. My stomach dropped. He refused? Darren said he asked for delays. He asked if he could hand-pick which device to provide. That's not how orders work. Mina muttered. Of course. Darren finished and sealed something in an envelope. Your imaging is complete, he said. Then he looked at me straight. If Mr. Aldridge deletes now, I will see it. I whispered. Can you really tell? Yes, Darren said. Delete attempts leave traces. I nodded slowly. On the way out, I felt a strange thing. Relief. Not joy. Not celebration. Relief. Because my story was no longer just my words. It was recorded. It was locked. It was real. The days before court. The pressure builds. The days after Christmas felt like a long hallway. Every step forward. My phone buzzed. Trent called. Trent texted. Trent switched from threats to sweetness and back again like a light. One text said, Please, let's fix this. I love you. The next text said, You're going to lose everything. I saved them all. I didn't reply. Imani called me on December 27th. Hearing is set for December 29th, she said. Judge Rosa Calderon. My throat tightened. Is she fair? Imani replied, She's strict. She doesn't like games. Good. Trent loved games. I needed someone who hated them. Imani added, Trent hired an aggressive lawyer, Graham Voss. He'll try to paint you as emotional. I almost laughed. Of course. Imani's voice sharpened. Let him. We don't argue feelings. We show facts. That night, Mina and I sat at her kitchen table with my folder open. We went through everything again. The hotel keycard photo, the condo lease email screenshot, the bank audit flag email, the $93,400 transfer, Trent's threats, Celeste's calls, my timeline entries. Mina pointed at the timeline and said, This is clean. I nodded. I tried. Mina leaned back. Trent thought you weren't prepared because you're quiet. I stared at the folder. He thinks quiet means empty. Mina said quiet can mean loaded. I looked at her. Like a gun. Mina smiled. Exactly. If you're still with me, comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe because on December 29th, Trent walks into court confident and walks out realizing the order wasn't for show. It was a warning that someone was about to lose everything. If you enjoyed this story and you want more real, intense revenge stories like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Your support helps me keep making bigger, better, and more interesting content for you. And don't watch alone. Invite a friend, share the video, and tell others to join you in supporting this channel so we can grow together. Now, I want to hear from you too. Write in the comments where you're watching from, your country or your city. I read your comments, and your support truly matters. All right, now let's go back to listening to the beautiful revenge story of our protagonist. December 29th, the courthouse. The courthouse downtown smelled like old paper and cold air. The hallways were full of footsteps and whispers. Imani met me outside the courtroom door. She wore a dark suit, hair neat, eyes sharp. She looked like she belonged there. I felt small in my simple blouse and black pants. Imani noticed and leaned close. Do not shrink, she said. Your facts are bigger than his suit. I swallowed and nodded. Mina came too, sitting behind me for support. Then Trent arrived. He wore a gray suit. His shoulders were back. His face was calm, like he had practiced it in a mirror. Graham Voss walked beside him, carrying a thick folder like a weapon. Behind Trent, I saw Celeste and Wade. Celeste looked tense, trying to hold her face together. Wade looked angry, but not sure at who. And 2 rows behind Trent sat Bryn Sloan. She wore a white coat like she wanted to look innocent. Her hair was perfect. Her lips were pink. She looked at me and smiled once, small and cold. My stomach tightened. Imani whispered, Don't look at her. I nodded, but I didn't need to look at Bryn, because today, the court would. A bailiff opened the door and called us in. The courtroom wasn't huge, but it felt heavy. Judge Rosa Calderon entered. She was in her 60s, short hair, glasses, quiet power. Sit, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but everyone listened. She looked at the papers in front of her, then at Trent. Mr. Aldridge, she said, you were served with an evidence preservation order on December 24th, Christmas Eve. Trent nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Calderon's eyes didn't soften. Did you comply? Graham Voss stood up fast. Your Honor, my client has been trying to cooperate, But this order is extreme. Mrs. Aldridge is— Judge Calderon lifted one finger. Stop, she said. Graham froze. Judge Calderon looked at him like he was a fly. I don't allow insults dressed as legal talk. Sit down. Graham sat. Trent's calm cracked slightly. Judge Calderon turned to Imani. Miss Kerr, examiner report. Imani stood. Yes, Your Honor. Darren Pike walked forward and handed a sealed packet to the clerk. Trent's eyes followed it like it was a bomb. Judge Calderon opened the report and read quietly for a long time. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Then she looked up. Mr. Aldridge, she said, did you attempt to reverse a transfer of $93,400 on Christmas morning? Trent blinked fast. Graham stood again. Your Honor. Judge Calderon didn't even look at him. I asked Mr. Aldridge. Trent swallowed hard. It was a correction, a business matter. Darren spoke calm and clear. The bank flagged the attempt. It was logged. It occurred after service of the order. Judge Calderon's eyes narrowed. She turned the page. And did you change the admin password on the company messaging system on December 23rd at 8:39 p.m.? Trent's face went pale. No, he said too quickly. Darren spoke again. The password change was triggered from Mr. Aldridge's phone. 2 minutes later, a deletion attempt was made through the admin account. The courtroom went quiet. I heard someone inhale sharply behind me. Judge Calderon leaned forward slightly. Mr. Aldridge, she said, do you understand what preserve means? Trent's jaw tightened. Yes. Judge Calderon's voice stayed calm, but it was sharper now. Then why did you attempt to remove information? Trent's eyes darted to his lawyer. Graham said, Your Honor, my client was under stress. Judge Calderon finally looked at Graham. Stress is not permission to destroy evidence. Then she turned back to Darren. Anything else? She asked. Darren nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. There is a second phone. Trent's head snapped up. What? Darren continued. A prepaid device connected to Mr. Aldridge's vehicle Bluetooth repeatedly. It contains messages with Miss Bryn Sloan. Bryn stiffened in her seat. Trent's face turned red. Judge Calderon looked up slowly. Miss Sloan is present, she asked. No one spoke. Bryn stayed still. Like if she didn't move, she wouldn't exist. Judge Calderon returned her gaze to Trent. There are also marital funds used for a midtown condo deposit, she said, without Mrs. Aldridge's consent. Trent's voice rose. That's not. Judge Calderon raised her hand. Enough. She lifted the separation agreement that was submitted as part of evidence. This separation agreement, she said, contains language designed to block future discovery. End quote. She looked at Trent like she could see straight through him. The court does not like traps, she said. My throat tightened, but I kept my face calm. Judge Calderon glanced at me. Mrs. Aldridge, she said. I stood carefully. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Calderon's voice softened just a little. Not kind, but fair. Were you pressured to sign this on Christmas Eve? Yes, I said. At his parents' house. They said it was the clean way. Judge Calderon nodded once. And did you feel threatened? I swallowed. My voice stayed steady. Yes. He told me I wasn't prepared, and that if I fought him, I'd leave with nothing. Trent's eyes burned into me. Judge Calderon looked back at Trent. Then she said the sentence that changed how my chest felt. Mrs. Aldridge is prepared. A small hush ran through the room. Judge Calderon continued, and the evidence order said otherwise. My hands trembled slightly at my sides, but I didn't let it show. Imani stood. Your Honor, we request temporary financial restraints on all marital and related business accounts pending full discovery, and attorney fees due to concealment and attempted deletion. Graham opened his mouth. Judge Calderon didn't let him speak. Granted, she said. Trent whispered. No. Judge Calderon kept going. And because Mr. Aldridge attempted deletion after service, I'm ordering sanctions. The court will assume any destroyed evidence would have been unfavorable to Mr. Aldridge. Trent's face went stiff like stone. I felt a wave of relief so strong it almost knocked me over. Not because I wanted him to suffer, because for months, he made me feel crazy. Now, a judge was reading his actions like a list. Judge Calderon looked at Trent again. Mr. Aldridge, you will provide all devices and credentials to the examiner within 24 hours. If you fail, you will face contempt proceedings. Trent nodded weakly. Graham finally spoke, trying to sound smooth. Your Honor, my client needs time. Judge Calderon's eyes sharpened. He had time. He chose games. Court is done playing. Then she banged the gavel lightly. Next matter, she said. And just like that, it was over. But Trent's world wasn't over yet. It was only starting to fall. Outside the courthouse, the fall spreads. Outside, the Houston air felt thick. Trent walked fast, head down. Graham followed, talking fast, in a low voice. Celeste rushed after them, crying softly. Trent, what are we going to do? Wade stayed behind, frozen. Bryn slipped out a side door, moving like smoke. Imani stood beside me, calm. Mina came up on my other side like a shield. Imani said, "You did well. You didn't take bait. You spoke facts." I whispered, "My legs feel like jelly." Imani gave a small smile. "That's normal. Go rest." As we walked toward the parking lot, my phone buzzed. A news alert? No. A message from an unknown number. "This is Travis Lind, CFO of Gulfspan. We need to speak." My stomach tightened. Imani saw my face. "Show me." I handed her the phone. Imani read it and nodded. "Good. That means the company is already moving. They smell risk." Mina whispered, "He's about to get eaten alive." I didn't smile. Not yet. Because part of me still remembered the man I married at the charity event, who said he'd be my family. But another part of me understood the truth. That man was a mask. This Trent, this panicked Trent, was the real one. The company turns, and Trent loses his crown. 2 days later, on December 31st, Gulfspan Freight sent out a public statement. Not a long one, just a simple line. Mr. Aldridge is stepping back from day-to-day operations pending internal review. Stepping back was business language for, "We don't trust you anymore." Trent called me 8 times that day. He left 2 voicemails. In the first, his voice was angry. "You did this. You ruined everything." In the second, his voice was softer, almost broken. "Please, just talk to me." I saved them both. I didn't respond. At midnight, Mina and I sat on her balcony with cheap sparkling juice, watching fireworks pop over the city. Mina said, "Happy New Year." I whispered, "I didn't think my year would start like this." Mina shrugged. Better than starting it trapped. She was right. The next morning, January 1st, I got a message from Celeste, not a call this time. A text. "Please come talk. We can fix this quietly." Quietly. That word again. They wanted my silence more than they wanted my peace. I didn't answer. The last attempt. Trent comes to the door. On January 5th, I finally went back to my condo unit. Not alone. Mina came with me. Imani told me to. The condo looked the same from outside. Same hallway smell. Same elevator ding. But inside, it felt like a place someone else lived. Trent's shoes weren't by the door. His jacket wasn't on the hook. The air felt lighter. I didn't even get to unpack before the knocking started. Hard knocks. Not polite. Demanding. Mina looked at me. "Don't open." I grabbed my phone and started recording. Then I opened the door just enough to see him. Trent stood there in wrinkled clothes. No perfect suit. No calm smile. His eyes were tired. His jaw was tight. Behind him, the hallway lights buzzed faintly. "You're hiding now?" he snapped. I kept the chain on the door. "You don't live here right now," I said. Trent's laugh was bitter. "I don't live anywhere right now, thanks to you." Mina stepped into view behind me. "Back up, Trent." Trent's eyes flicked to Mina like she was dirt. "This is between me and my wife." Mina smiled coldly. "And I'm her family, so I'm here." Trent turned back to me. "You think you're strong now?" he asked. "Because you got a judge to scold me?" I stared at him. "It wasn't a scolding," I said. "It was consequences." His face twisted. "You destroyed my company." I shook my head slowly. "You used marital money for a condo for your girlfriend," I said. "You tried to hide funds. You tried to delete evidence. You tried to trap me with papers." Trent's voice rose. "Because you were going to take everything." I blinked once. "I wasn't trying to take everything," I said. "I was trying to understand what was real." His breathing got faster. "You weren't prepared for my world. You never were." I leaned closer to the crack in the door. My voice stayed low. "I was prepared," I said. "You just didn't notice because I wasn't loud." Trent's eyes flickered. For a second, he looked like he might cry. Then, anger came back to cover it. "So what now?" he demanded. "You want me to beg?" I shook my head. "I want you to stop," I said. "Stop calling. Stop threatening. Let the court finish. Let the truth stand." Trent swallowed. "You're really doing this?" "Yes," I said. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he whispered, like he couldn't believe it. "I never thought you'd fight." I answered quietly. "I didn't fight. I documented." Trent's shoulders sank. He stepped back. Then he turned and walked away down the hallway without another word. Mina exhaled. "Good." My hands shook when I closed the door. Mina looked at me. "You okay?" I whispered, "I think so." Mina nodded. "Good. because it's almost done. Final order. The court writes it down. By late February, the court proceedings moved fast. Not because Trent wanted them to, because Judge Calderon didn't allow delay games anymore. Darren's report confirmed what I already knew. Messages with Bryn on a hidden phone, deletion attempts after service, transfer attempts after service, marital funds used for the Midtown condo deposit, misleading claims on the separation agreement. Graham tried to argue I was overreacting. Judge Calderon shut him down. Then the final temporary orders came. Trent could not move large sums without court notice. The condo unit remained protected as marital property. Trent had to pay a portion of my legal fees due to concealment, and bad faithful discovery would continue for final division. When I left court that day, I didn't feel happy. I felt clean, like I had stepped out of mud. Imani walked with me to the hallway exit and said, "You did what many people don't do. You faced the truth, even when it was ugly." I whispered, "I wish it didn't happen on Christmas." Imani nodded. "He chose Christmas Eve because he thought you'd fold. But that's why the moment matters. He chose your weakest day, and you didn't break." I walked outside into the Houston sun. It was bright, warm, normal. And I realized something strange. I could breathe. The meaning of prepared. Trent used prepared like a weapon. He used it to make me feel small. He used it to make me doubt my own mind. But in the end, being prepared didn't mean wearing the right dress at a River Oaks dinner. It didn't mean knowing which fork to use. It meant knowing the truth. It meant saving proof. It meant asking for help before the trap snapped shut. It meant refusing to sign away my voice. And it meant this. On Christmas Eve, my husband tried to erase me with papers, but the evidence order said otherwise. Because I wasn't unprepared, I was underestimated. And that was his biggest mistake. Thank you so much for being here and supporting me. I truly appreciate every like, every comment, and every subscribe. It means more than you know. And it motivates me to keep bringing you stronger, more emotional, and more satisfying stories. If you already subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please keep taking an interest in the channel, keep coming back, and keep sharing your thoughts with me in the comments. And if you're watching this channel for the first time, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Also, make sure you check out a new video on the channel right now. There are more powerful stories waiting for you.